Welcome back to our continuing discussion on chapter 1 of our textbook Introductory Microeconomics. In today's class, you'll learn about the distinction between market economy and essentially planned economy. Secondly, you'll learn about the distinction between positive economics and normative economics, and also the distinction between microeconomics and macroeconomics, the two branches of economics itself. We'll base our discussion from your textbook. Last class, we have learned about the central problem of any economy. There are three, and how to solve those problems two ways. A, either free interaction by individuals in the market, you'll solve those problems. Economy could solve those problems, or plan by some central authority like the government. So, which one the economy chooses, that would solve this problem? Either give it to the market to solve the problem, or by the government. Let's learn first the centrally planned economy. How in a centrally planned economy you can solve those problems. In a centrally planned economy, it's the government that has the ultimate authority. That is the ultimate authority. It's the government that plans all the important activities in the economy. What to produce, planned by the government. How to produce, planned by the government. And for whom to produce. So the government makes all the major decisions in production, in exchange, consumption of goods and services. Okay, so in that way, the government can make adjustment. For example, if it is found that it's important to bring a change apart from what has been done by the market, it can do so by the government to bring about, like I've said, justice and availability for all. Example also given here in case of education. Imagine education if it is left to the market in private sector or in the health services. Same thing if you leave it to the private sector. We know a country which is poor, a country like India, majority will not be able to afford. So if education, if health, these are the basic things that are required by the people, cannot be made, cannot cater by the market on its own. The government has to try to push forward so that people can get access to, or the government alternatively can by itself produce the goods and enter in that activity by itself. Example we've given in education, if leave it to the private players, private sector, education can be catered to the needs of the people. Healthcare hospitals can be built by the private sector, but we all know that in a central plan economy, since these private sector cannot cater to the needs of all the people, especially the poor, the government has to also set up government hospitals, government schools, so and so. So that's why there is this kind of system where government plans and runs activities. Secondly, there is a market economy where the decisions regarding those central problems are not with the government but with the market. All economic activities are organized through the market. Okay, a market, is an institution which organizes, which uh, brings about the coordination between all the individuals. We all know we need things, we go to the market. We are consumers, we go to the market. So it's like an institution. We face with the sellers, they sell us the goods. So a market is the one which organizes the interaction between individuals. We, as buyers or as consumers from our homes, we go and buy things. Not that is our ultimate aim, that is what we need. But If you look at the market, on the other hand, it has sellers, suppliers, producers. They pursue their own activity of providing the needs to our people. So if we leave it at the mechanism of the market, also it can solve this problem: what to produce, how much to produce, for whom to produce. The market will also come to know. So a market, a definition of the market is a set of arrangements where economic agents are the sellers, the consumers, can freely exchange the endowments or products with each other. We buy things, they sell things. So from there, the market comes to know what do we need, how much we need. Then it can pass that information to the producer to meet the needs of the buyers in the market. Okay, so in that way, market economy, market itself also without the government can solve problems. So these are the two systems that a, an economy can choose from. Before we go on, let's look at the definition of the market again, which is different from what we talk about every day. Because every day when you say market, we mean marketplace. But in economics, place is not important. Physical location is not important. It's the interaction that is important. Interaction between two parties where they exchange goods with money, goods for goods, whatever the case may be. That's more important in the market. Okay, so that's why we bring to this point where whatever it is, there are forces in the market that brings about the coordination of all these individuals. We go to the market, they sell to us, all of us interact in the market. That is our market system. It's a powerful system that bring about relationship coordination between these two sides. But importantly, when we talk about the market, we cannot forget the price, because the price is uh, an instrument, which is an index, which is a measurement of what we interact with, what we exchange for. Not it. So in a market, when we talk about the market, price is always very important. So there is always a close relationship between market and price. When you talk about market, you have to think of price. So what's the market without the price? It's not it. Because we buy things, we buy and sell, we exchange things, we exchange at this agreed upon price. Okay, so price that we go and buy 5 per kg, 10 per kg, this price reflects our valuation, how much we value, we measure that good that we buy. So we need this kind of measurement also, and price has that solution. Okay, so we have two types of market system: free market system and centrally planned system. But nowadays, in reality, all countries of the world, all economies have have mixed economies. They don't depend only on centrally planned or market system. They have a mixed both, a mixture of both. They combine both in such a way that they'll be able to answer those questions. So all countries in the world now have mixed economies, where some important decisions are taken by the government, centrally planned, and economic activities run through the market, that is the market system. Okay, but the only difference is that even though all are mixed economy, you'll find some countries like United States of America, they give more power to the market. Government is minimal. In case of China, they give more power to the government than to the market. But in India, we follow a middle path. Not it. Government also plays an important role by planning planning the economic activities, but also we have the markets where private enterprise runs and produce things. So that's the distinction between centrally planned economy and market system. Next important point that we need to look at is when we talk about economics, economics we know is both an art and a science. And in a science, there is some subjects which are positive science and some are normative science. But to go to the point is that economics is both positive and normative science. So we call it a positive economics, normative economics. What do we mean by this? In positive economics analysis, we analyze things. We study how the different mechanism functions. We simply learn things as they are. We study what is happening. But in normative economics, it's different. We try to understand whether these mechanisms are desirable or not. Whether it's we keep on, we have to do something, keep continuing with them, effective or not, criticism, and also look at implementation point of view. So that's different. Positive, you simply think, simply look, analyze, explain the cause and effect. Whereas in normative, you have to find ways and means to see whether what ought to be done, things that we need to improve. If we do that, what will happen? If we don't do, what will happen? That's normative science. So we need these two aspects because in the study of the central problems, we cannot study these two in isolation, but they are related to each other. That's why the analysis of economics from positive normative is important. So when we talk about positive, we tend to look at the question like what is, and when we talk about normative is what ought to be. We'll come back to this. And finally, when we talk about economics, economics is broadly classified under two major um, heads, that is micro and macroeconomics. Micro, you understand, small, not it? Macro is something big, broad. So let's bring about the definition, the distinction, and also the meaning of these two. Microeconomics, we study behavior of individual economic agents in the markets. Individual, for different goods and services. We talk about us as consumer. We go to the market. So individually, if the subject study us why we buy things as consumer, that's micro. In the market, there are sellers. If it studies about that particular part of the market, seller, then that's microeconomics. And if you look at the market, we say when you talk about market, there is always a price. So when it studies about the price fixation and also how these quantities are determined, that's micro. Macro, on the other hand, these green highlighted lines, we try to get an understanding of the economy as a whole, not individual perspective, but a sum total, aggregate measure. We add things together, like total output, how much we produce in a country in a month, in a year, total output of rice, total output of so on. Things in totality, add them together, that's macro. When we look at employment generation in a country, how many people are employed, how many are unemployed, not getting jobs, that's macro. And also if you look at the price level, if you look at the individual price level, that's micro. But if you look at the general price level, why prices increase or decrease in a country overall, that's macro. So the difference is micro look at the individual aspect, macro looks at the sum total, the aggregate, and the whole thing. Okay, so in macroeconomics, you study about the level of what level of output to be produced, how it is determined, the total output, whether it's growing over a period of time from one year to another, how resources are available in the country, like mineral, like material, like labor, whether they're employed or not, employment, unemployment resources, that's a part of my macroeconomics, general price rises, that's macroeconomics. So macroeconomics measure the overall performance of the economy. We need to learn about whole thing, isn't it? But at the same time, you also need micro because micro studies at the individual level, isn't it? It studies about, like I've said, consumers. It studies about sellers. It studies about producer. It studies about price. It studies about markets. That's the difference between these two. Okay, so what you've learned? You've learned about positive and normative. Positive, what is phenomenon? It tries to analyze the relation between the cause and effect of any case. For example, I'll give you in economics we talk about price, isn't it? So price is there, but we know price nowadays keep on increasing. So if you study that trend in increasing in price, that's a positive economics because we study things that it is. It's increasing. So we turn to look at what's the reason why it increases the cost and what's the effect on the people, especially in the poor people, but we do nothing. That's positive economics. We simply analyze and study things in existence. But normative, on the other hand, has a way of thinking what ought to be if this price increases, affect the people. What should we do? What should have been done? What solution can you come up so that poor people don't suffer? That's normative. It's kind of from the implementation point of view, suggestion point of view, so that at times government can put forward policies to solve those problems. So normative is very is as important as positive because it's action time, not it? It acts on what it knows. That's about positive normative. And secondly, let me just recap. Microeconomics deals with individual behavior like consumer sellers, price determination of commodity, etc. Macro deals with the economy as a whole. It studies about total income of the country, employment of the resources, the price rise, price level in the country. So these are the things you learn nowadays. For today, I mean to say. So that's all about chapter 1. Next, we'll start chapter 2.